Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Dear viewers, Assalamu alaikum. I am your host Faisal Raza Khan and you are watching Foresight. Viewers, in today's digital age, Pakistan faces an ever increasing threat of cyber attacks like cyber terrorism, cyber espionage, cyber jacking, etc. In highly digitized environment and with the rise of online transactions, use of digital apps, e-government, e-governance, e-commerce, e-banking, protecting our digital assets, sensitive information, data and critical infrastructure is more crucial than ever. As Pakistan battles terrorism and faces lots of economic challenges in a highly polarized society, the need for robust cyber security measures has become paramount. From malware attacks to database breaches, cyber threats can have devastating consequences for individuals, businesses and the nation as a whole. We will try to examine the current state of cyber security in Pakistan, discussing the challenges, threats and vulnerabilities that exist. We will also explore the measures being taken by the government to protect against cyber threats, including the National Cyber Emergency Response Team NCERT and the possible enactment of Personal Data Protection Bill 2023. To discuss this very important topic, we have in our studios Professor Dr. Yasar Ayaz, Chairman and Central Project Director, National Center for Artificial Intelligence, NCAI, National University of Science and Technology. Most welcome to you, sir. Thank you very much. And with him, Dr. Mehreen Afzal, she is Director, Security and Governance Risk Compliance, GRC, National Cyber Emergency Response Team, NCERT. Most welcome to you, ma'am. Thank you very much for your time as well. And online joining us, Syed Muhammad Ayub Shah. He is the tech expert and have a vast experience in information technology domain. So most welcome to you, Shah sahab. Thank you very much being online. Thank you very much. So nice. My first question to you, Dr. Mehreen, that National Cyber Emergency Response Team, which you are the director of that, has a mandate to protect country's digital assets, sensitive information, critical infrastructure in the wake of ever increasing cyber attacks in the form of cyber terrorism, espionage or jacking, etc. There are lots of forms of the cyber attack. So how much it's effective and what confronts the entity in recent years and what to do more in this regard?
Thank you very much for inviting me and letting me share my views on this topic. First of all, yes, in this era we are facing lot many forms of cyber threats. We name them differently in different contexts, but there are many type of cyber threats right now prevailing in globally, basically not relevant to our country basically only, but globally it is quite common. When you call upon cyber terrorism and cyber jacking, basically you have named them like this, otherwise these terminologies are very well known in the cyber community with the name, because when we say that there is an event of cyber terrorism, our cyber security professional mean that there must be a large scale effect of some cyber attack which might have disrupted life of common people and lives of and because it might have affected some basic critical infrastructure, yes, like power grids or like transportation systems or like this, and in recent years we have seen many such incidents globally where lives of people are affected due to such kind of attacks.
Definitely.
Now when we talk about national CERT, as you said, it is cyber emergency response teams. Yes, it is an emergency response, that whenever there comes an incident, there is a group of people which respond to it, which tries to contain the attack, which tries to investigate the attack, and then try to recover the things back to the original before the attack was there. So this is the you must say this is the original meaning of CERT. But in context of national CERT, I would like to tell you that we take its meaning holistically. It's not just response. It's not just response. We are basically have different components which are working.
You cater it overall.
Yes, we cater it overall, because and let me tell you that national CERT in Pakistan has it has been established just now in just 1 year back. While we are honestly 2-3 decades back, I mean away from the other countries in our region which have established their CERTs around 2-3 decades back. So we are very late already. So national CERT is like a body which governs.
Definitely you need an extra push on that, because
Yes.
you are late in that domain,
Yes.
so you have to work very hard on that.
Yes, because cyber security is not like some plug in, plug out type of things. It's a type of cultural thing.
Definitely.
We have to adopt it. We have to live with it.
Obviously.
So when we require such, it means that it will come into practice with some time, with some, I mean, in some time to come, we will see its fruits. I was telling you that as you said that there are many types of challenges. Yes, there are many types of challenges. But why we are hopeful that we will be able to manage, or we will be able to set up our structure good enough to tackle all these type of attacks, because as I have said that we are having a holistic approach of proactive defense, in which we are proposing we are giving our guidelines to the organizations, to all type of federal setups, and we are having a very strong capacity building program.
That's good.
Because without that we cannot expect that. I will if I give you an example, that if I tell that this is a hospital and we are having an emergency room, and in a hospital we just have an emergency room where a patient come with a heart attack every time, and we just patch him up and send him, and nothing other than that happens, then you can say that we are not basically working on the disease itself. So if we have to work on the disease itself, then it means that we should be having some labs.
Actually, it provides, when you talk about the cyber security, it provides the holistic environment overall. And that environment actually not only protect that whole information, data and all sensitive infrastructure, but also the outsiders must not come into without any sort of genuine thing. So that's obvious. So Dr. Yasar, since COVID-19 pandemic, exponential rise recorded in cyber attacks in Pakistan, which is really worrisome issue, because global cyber security and digital privacy company Kaspersky revealed that cyber threats grown by 17% in 2023, 2.4% internet users affected by the cyber threats, while major attacks categorized through banking malware rose by 59%, Trojan attacks by 35%, and ransomware attacks by 24%, and spyware rose by 36%. How do you see it?
So most of the time, like whenever you see that if you look at what a cyber attack generally is, and we are talking about the like the security oriented cyber, there are two kinds of cyber attacks. One is the disinformation cyber attack, the other is the like the directly something, a breach of data or something.
Obviously.
So if you talk about the breach of data type, because that's what the percentages were about. So what basically happens is that some kind of a software which does not belong to the system, it comes as a Trojan or something like that, somebody opens it up or downloads it, or otherwise sends some information out by accident or something. So it's most of the time some kind of human error because of lack of awareness. So there is actually a report of IBM which actually computes that 95% of the cyber attacks that actually take place, or cyber breaches that actually happen, directly involve some kind of human error.
Okay.
right? So it's actually lack
Human
of
error
training.
or human intervention?
Human error actually.
Okay.
And because humans are, there are actually two types of humans errors. They are properly classified, and there are like instruction mechanism on how to train the teams.
Okay.
Right. So there is one is like skill based human errors, and the others are decision based human errors. So decisions is because of the lack of knowledge of the person. Right. So if you can create awareness about cybersecurity, it can aid that. The skill based one also come from the culture, that they know that they have to put this protection in place, but maybe somebody was careless or something. So one of the major incidents, for example, which happened with the NHS, the National Health Service, like around 800 like patients' data, I think it got exposed because just some person was sending an email, placed the addresses instead of BCC, they placed it in 2, and all the patient data, and they were HIV patients actually when it became public. So this is why, like small minor things, and like when you say 95% of the attacks are taking place because of this, so it means something. Basically, when you talk about a cyber attack, it's actually a pattern recognition problem.
Okay.
Like for example, once the software is downloaded on the system, so what it is doing is that it is either corrupting a file or encoding a file or picking up data and sending somewhere in simple words, the phishing attack or what type of a malware attack, Trojan or what sort of thing it is. So it is to detect what sort of activity is taking place, what sort of file is there, and to curb that kind of attack. And for that, we also need to have a lot of software our own, on which the National Center for Cybersecurity and also the NCERT has been working for some time. And these are basically with the current era. Now coming to that part of your question, that why they are increasing, especially after COVID-19. So we have a wave of AI right now in the world.
Yes.
And all sorts of softwares are being strengthened because of AI. And like softwares which conduct the attacks are also getting driven by AI. They're getting increasingly difficult to capture unless you have an AI based countermeasure which is actually looking after that kind of attack, right? So that again, artificial intelligence has to be engaged, has to be applied in that, design a lot of software. We have to take the edge in research in that as well. So a lot of things are in the applied domain, applying the knowledge, putting in the systems, and a lot of research also has been done. In Pakistan, there are efforts in both directions.
Your point well taken. Syed Ayub Shah, Pakistan is fighting an extremely daunting counter-terrorism war during an era of heightened polarization. In such a scenario, Pakistan is vulnerable to face cyber attacks. Whether our installations, information systems, programs and data are fully protected?
Thank you very much, Faisal Khan Sahab. Very pertinent question and a question really needing our attentions. Cyber security is an evolving phenomena. It is never complete. Even if you do the defense in depth and you secure everything, you are still vulnerable. And zero-day vulnerability is a vulnerability that gets detected anytime. Now, in the backdrop of what you said, the terrorism going on, or the threat of terrorism that Pakistan is facing, and the polarization that is going across in our society, the cyber security challenges are becoming more and more complex and more and more unconventional in their entirety. So yes, if you say whether we are safe enough to face these kind of challenges, no, we are not safe enough. In any case, as I said, cybersecurity is an evolving phenomena, and cybersecurity defense mechanism also ought to be in an evolving form, in becoming more and more comprehensive through the study of the more vulnerabilities that come across. So challenges are immense, challenges are increasing, and our defense lines, which is there, of course, we have a number of institutions now that have come up to safeguard the cybersecurity. We have talked about the national CERT, we have talked about certain other bodies which are there, but they are barely enough. We have a number of challenges apart from the counterterrorism and the cybersecurity. Challenges, that is the paucity or the lack of resources. We have infrastructure challenges. Our infrastructure at the moment is not, I must say, at par with the world that can counter any kind of cyber security challenge. The budget issues are there. Financing is required for this, and it's one of the costly affairs to be looked into. The capacity issues are there. The technology issues are there, and above all, we have lack of awareness in the masses. They're not aware of how to really protect their own personal data, their own personal secure information, and how to avoid the cybersecurity people, the cyber attackers from getting down to their data. The social engineering, which is one of the major challenges faced by the cybersecurity guys, is much at work in Pakistan. There is personal identity theft happening. A huge number of personal identity theft have been recorded over the past number of years, and they're likely to increase more. Now, when you talk about the diversification of the threat, yes, diversification of the threat makes it more complex in a sense that when you come up with certain kind of defense line, that defense line it falls apart when a new kind of threat comes in, or when the threat form or the threat manifestation changes. So, as I said earlier, we have to keep evolving our defense mechanisms. We have to keep studying the cybersecurity threats, and a lot of investment is required. And one of the best way can be to bring up the private sector to invest in the cybersecurity realm of Pakistan, and try and beef up the resources that the government has. So the challenges are immense. Information systems are vulnerable. They will remain vulnerable, whatever defense that we may put up across.
Your point well taken, Ayub Shah Sahib. Illegal networks, mafias and terrorists are often using dark webs like nuclear black market, arms, narco and human smuggling, child and adult. So there are also the game softwares, the grey websites, the cryptocurrency mining, malwares, hacking to the globally attract funding, particularly money laundering, recruiting to spread terrorism networks. Whether we have addressed this grave issue at politically, legislative and law enforcement levels? It is in context of cyber crimes.
The Pakistan has tried to put in certain kind of legislation in place to address the cyber crime. But as you said and you mentioned, there's a huge big landscape that's still uncovered. While legislation is very, very much important, the policy that drives at the government level, at the executive organ level, is also very important for its understanding in terms of the government circles, and in terms of the execution at the grassroots level, which is also is deficient, and needs to be reconsidered, reevaluated, while taking all the stakeholders on board and making it more comprehensive. Our legislation does not cover incrimination or making the criminal acts being accounted for under the criminal trials, and booking the criminals for committing cyber security offenses, which are properly the cyber security violations, as well as some of the violations which fall on the fringes of the cyber security. In the modern world, the mens rea, the planning part and the intention part of committing a physical crime will also lie in the realm of the cybersecurity. Say, for example, the people who committed a crime of murder, they did certain kind of planning over the WhatsApp on using certain kind of cyber security communication means, which are cyber means. So, of course, the mens rea establishment at the courts of law, and making those criminals being booked for the purpose is yet a deficient part, which has not been realized at our level as well as at the global level. These are the challenges which are still untapped in many ways across at least the kind of country that we are. There is a need for all this. There are certain other aspects that you mentioned. You mentioned a whole big landscape of all these cybersecurity challenges, but the cryptocurrency and Bitcoin business and others, these are also causing certain kind of challenges and causing monetary and fiscal imbalances. The cash flow imbalances and the foreign exchange imbalances in the national economies, because the money is being sent through other means which is unaccounted for. While you cannot send the money.
Well described, Ayub Shah sir, well described. Dr. Mehreen, how do you see this Pakistan Telecommunication Authority's recent announcement of introducing new policy regulating the use of VPNs, these virtual private networks? So do you not think that VPN social media platforms can be used for malicious and illegal activities like cyber attacks, cyber crimes, some sort of cyberjacking, spreading the malwares in identity and data theft, espionage, sabotage or disinformation campaigns and others, and without any sort of identification, because they are using some sort of compromised server from anywhere else.
Well, first I would like to differentiate between the disinformation campaigns and cyber attacks. These are two very
Obviously,
different. These are two very
the different
things.
areas.
And
Yes.
basically not only different from the effect they make, but also they are different in the sense that how they are dealt with.
Obviously,
Not only legally but also technically. I mean their management is different, and that is why different bodies basically handle them. Now, when you say talk about the VPNs, let me first tell you that why VPNs are used. Basically, VPNs are virtual private networks which are being used for making a tunnel between the two bodies, maybe a server and a client, or between two servers, where the data privacy is.
It's a kind of a bypass, you know.
Well, you know, you are using it in that terms. Basically, as a cyber security or an information security professional, for me it is a tool. For me,
Obviously, you are the expert. I am not. But
I'm using it for defense basically, because when I am connecting with some at some place where in many organizations, especially where financial transactions are being done, and in many businesses, their private VPNs are working, and they basically communicate through them with the reason that they want to protect their data. Okay. They want privacy. They give importance to the privacy. Now, obviously, if Pakistan wants to regulate VPNs, well, PTA has the authority for that, and because I would not like to comment on the part that whether it's a good part or not. This is not our domain, okay, basically.
Yes, I understand.
Yeah. So but from my opinion, in generally, VPNs are being used, and they have to be used. I mean, we cannot stop them. If you name some countries where they are regulated, they are very few. I mean, we can count them on fingers. Whereas globally they are not regulated in that way, because because they come in different where in those countries where privacy is important, they allow VPNs. And where they want to control the
because that was there is a case in Lahore High Court as well. The court actually questioned the legality of VPNs in Pakistan, observed that using VPN incurs actually penalties in many countries, and they are citing the
not in many
examples
countries.
of United Arab Emirates.
We can basically count them. If in that sense we see there are few countries they control them, and yes, there is nothing I mean bad in making some regulations for VPNs, but they are not meant for cyber security. My point is they are meant for some different in different contexts they control things. They are for type of cyber attacks. VPNs are not like, they are not that, I mean, they are not such an important character
means they are not counted as as a whole threat like cyber threat.
Yes. When I mean if we have to say that
this is just a tool to use alternatives. That's all. In very simple terms, if we just going to tell our viewers. So, Dr. Yasar, several computing systems affected by malware daily actually. Cyber criminals or the hackers often gain access and inject viruses through phishing, network breaches, or employees gateways like password cracking techniques or something like that. So what measures are in place to protect valuable data from going into the wrong hands? If you just have some technical things in account on that particular
I think like almost every one of us must have experienced the odd phone call coming in saying that we are talking from this bank and give us this information or something like that.
This is often happening now.
In Pakistan, it's particularly common that even if you go for something not very significant, many times people will ask you for a copy of CNIC. So it's first of all, it's very important to have some regulation in place that actually directs or suggests who can collect what data and who cannot collect what data.
Definitely.
Right? Because creating a fake profile of some person, once you have, like, you may not have gotten the data by hacking from somewhere. You may have gotten it by, let's say, a CNIC, and then people advise us to always cross the CNIC so that the copy could not be straight away used for something.
Obviously.
But the number and the address and all the other information regarding the person is readable from the CNIC copy, and it can still be used. So we need to invent better mechanism, digitize things, secure them, so that we can actually use cyber security measures to protect that data. Because if we give it out in print and we let every organization collect it, then we are putting them vulnerable anyway. So in one case, for example, when a very learned person referred to me that their bank account was actually compromised, and for instance, they got a call like this, and then they sent a link, and this link really looked like the banking website, the bank's own website looked the same way as that, and they accidentally put their information in there, and after some time there was this this sad eventuality. So it's again like some lack of knowledge, or we hear several times, and sometimes, for example, I have personally, when I've received some certain calls like that, when I've tried calling that institution and telling them that somebody is pretending to be you and doing something like that, many times the people at call centers are not willing or not tasked to actually
most of the time they are completely mum on that, and they are not even reacting.
Yes.
They are not responding. That's why lots of crimes happen actually.
So the reason why I mentioned all this is that many times to gain information, or to actually the ultimate purpose of a cyber attack is to get that kind of information.
Obviously.
Right? So and some information may be password protected. For example, getting access to an email or something. So let's come to that. But first, a lot of personal data, which people would have to hack some server to otherwise get, they can get by this kind of technique, making fools out of simpleton people who don't understand, and because they have been given no knowledge or information and how to protect themselves at times, then they can be victims to it. Now coming to the password protection, so these the malware attacks and password phishing are age-old technologies which have been in place. Even as kids, many times in universities, people put it in the internet cafes and other places, especially in public computers, and these are the most dangerous places to actually put in any kind of password, right? And like as a hobby, people when people come, they study computer science, they fancy such kind of stuff many times. How it happens, they have to first understand how this happens before they learn the counter. Yeah,
definitely.
So the purpose is not learning, of course, for the kids at that time. So first thing is that we need to somebody making this kind of system, they have to be, number one, technically capable enough, right? So they must have studied that technology from somewhere. So we need to put in the ethical guidelines and ethical teaching behind this in the curricula, where people are learning about computer science and computer systems, and so that they are not inclined to, especially the good minds are not inclined to pursue lines like that. And then the second thing is that, of course, we need to put in most of the organizations in Pakistan, what I've seen is that many times in their own networks, for instance, there could be organizations that look after the national data, for instance, but they will not be responsible for, let's say, a bank's own data that is accessed through a password of into their own system. So they have their own DNS server, and from there the domain name server and where the information of the personal information of people is stored. So for that, the bank has to implement, or the organization custodian of that data has to implement. So there has to be a regulation, like what sort of software they have to buy and put in place. When in foreign countries, I've studied in Japan, even your personal computer going on the Wi-Fi always needed to have certain sort of let's say antivirus. I'm not naming any, but sometimes they have a standard that you must have this one installed. If you're a student and you have joined and you want to log in with
some
your
packages
computer,
of softwares, including the antiviruses, must have to be there in your personal computer.
Yes.
That is mandatory when you are going to Wi-Fi or the internet connection. That is very important.
And like in the there's a prevention is better than cure in that.
Definitely,
aspect.
definitely.
So
and every organization has to do it.
most definitely.
Definitely,
Yes.
definitely.
Adding
Your
to
point
this
was-
point, I would like to also share with you and on this platform that very soon National CERT will also start a campaign in schools for this type of awareness.
Dr. Mehreen, we are coming to that. That is very important. I'll ask for that as well. Here the question arises that Pakistan is actually going through the very tough economic conditions. In this era, we have to protect our businesses, commerce and trade in digital environment particularly, including digitized taxation system from all odds and having great importance along with the digital development. Risks are actually rising. So especially when we are talking about cyber attacks. So how to have these ultimate protections against such threats?
Well, ultimate protection, there is nothing like ultimate protection in the world.
Okay.
First we
But
have
at
to
least we
understand,
can try.
yes, we have to try our best, and basically we have to make the lives of attacker difficult.
Okay.
When we make our defense more and more strong, we basically make them difficult to attack or to access these things. Now, digitization is the key to success or of development. I mean, we cannot say that since digitization invite attacks, therefore digitization should not be there. We have to do it, and basically the benefits of digitization are also related to cyber in sense, cyber security, in the sense that if our data is digitized, only then we can make it encrypt. We can encrypt it, and we can make it more, its integrity can be secured. Otherwise, if we are having physical type of data, which is currently in many in our country, in many places we have not yet digitized it. In that case, we are having many difficulties in not only accessing and also on the confidentiality of that data. So digitization has to be done, and but of course, when we digitize, we expose our things to some kind of attacks as well.
Definitely.
But naturally, there are. I mean, if we take security, cyber security as an inbuilt process and not an afterthought process thing. I mean, most of the time we start giving services and then we start thinking about injecting security into it somehow. Now, this approach is not good. If that is the approach, then obviously many loopholes are left, which are then exploited by the attackers, by even the users themselves.
We have to assess that environment at first, and then build a security infrastructure as well.
Yes.
And then we have to introduce it.
Yes.
And
then,
that must have to be hand in hand.
Yes, and as I mentioned earlier, that security is not like a switch to be plugged on. Yes, it has to be, it is a holistic process. It has to be incorporated within the system and within the people. Because as Dr. Yasar mentioned, the most weakest link is the human in most of the places. Whenever we investigate any attack, we find that there was some mistake, some mishandling, some type of I mean, it's very common practice that in our government organization that our password is something like written on our table. So this is
Dr. Yasar, many public-private organizations are actually shifting from centralized computing to cloud-based services actually. But they got exposed to the, as ma'am was rightly pointing out, that they are exposed to the security gaps basically, especially when cyber criminals found ways to access the cloud computing systems and networks by using these computing power. So how to address such issues?
So first thing is that like placing the data on cloud is certainly convenient and you can access in many places, but it doesn't relieve the organization putting the data on the cloud from, let's say, taking measures to protect the data on their own. For instance, they could encrypt their data, right, when putting it online, and they have to use effective encryption techniques. So first of all, this is like cybersecurity is a multi-fold, you could say system or a field or something in which like the cloud services have their own responsibility and the organization placing their data have their own responsibility. Now coming to the cloud side, so people who are actually managing clouds, first of all, there are a lot of regulations and there are a lot of tools available for that. There are efficiencies, many metrics of that are available. So anybody operating such clouds, for example, have to be, there has to be a certification mechanism in which we know what kind of tools they are using to protect the data so that people don't access. And lastly, like access to the cloud in the root password. Root password would mean, like, for example, cloud, certain section of the cloud with certain data can be accessed by, let's say, cracking a password, like, or which would be available with that organization or with the management of the, the management which is actually offering the cloud services. But the actual root password, which gives access to all the cloud data, because what we feel sometimes is the data is somewhere on the cloud it's in a like public place or something, and it's insecure, somebody could log in and get all the data. It's not as simple or easy as that, because the root password, most of the time cloud services don't allow that you dial it from any, or you log in with that root
They
password.
have their own security
Yes,
mechanisms.
it has
in
to be
place.
physically on the premises from where you access it, and people don't use it. Like many, when the service is running, people don't log in with the root password every day to do something.
Okay.
It's like very rare times when some critical thing is going to take place or new code is being installed or something. The third thing after that is that, like many times for websites, for example, it has been observed that 74%, I think I read in some study, that 74% of the like attacks on website come because of problems in the coding, like some non-standard coding, so the developer leaving something out. So here's another important thing, that we have to put in very good QA techniques. Whenever software is going out, how many of our software houses have effective quality assurance systems in place?
That's very important. That's very important,
yes.
really. Syed Ayub Shah sir, how much we excel to protect our valuable e-government, e-commerce, defense and other data by securing and protecting our servers, computing machines and flow of data from denial of services, DOS, and distributed denial of services, DDoS. So that is very important, because in today's scenario, these threats are inevitable.
Yes, the distributed denial of service attack and the denial of service attack, they are legacy attacks. But with the passage of time, they're becoming more sophisticated, and AI is being used to make these intruders look like as normal traffic and as normal service users. So they are becoming complex and they are becoming challenging with the passage of time due to the advancement in related technologies. When it comes to the protection against these attacks, and particularly Pakistan, there are a number of mechanisms which are in place and which we do normally. In case of the private sector, IDS and IPS, intrusion detection system and intrusion prevention systems are put in place at the server end, which detect and differentiate between the real users or real requests for services and these DDoS and DOS attacks type of services, and they filter out those. Certain other modern technologies have also come in, like Cloudflare and other, which ensure the endpoint security and the security at the server farm end, whereby the denial of service attacks are filtered out. They are potent attacks. They result into discommunication, disruption of the services. The CIA triad, that is confidentiality, integrity, and availability, and in some cases we also talk of the authenticity. This triad gets disturbed because of the denial of service attacks. But when coming to the sector, the e-commerce sector or the purely financial sector, the measures are quite potent, and they are safeguarding against these kind of attacks quite well. And it is by using second means of authentication before initiation of a session or before the session is built, and then timing out of the sessions so that the sessions are not longer enough to keep the systems committed for certain users. They may be real or maybe a kind of a denial of service fake users. The third sector that you talked about, the defense sector, different kind of protocols are in place at the moment also, and are required to be in place. That is nothing that is too critical or that is too important. Secure information ought to be put online. So the tier one or the top level of information that is extremely secure are kept apart from the open online internet access, and that is how they are not that vulnerable to denial of service or distributed denial of service attack. But the usual
Ayub Shah
case,
sir, well elaborated. Well elaborated. Dr. Mehreen sir, whether we have developed any kind of high-tech surveillance and identification systems to track those rogue elements with different organizations who could be insider threat regarding data theft, or could be used as facilitator for cyber attacks or cyber terrorism of any kind.
Well, when you talk about insider threat, it is a very common terminology in cyber security community, and basically most of the time it is defined as a disgruntled type of employee who exploit the level of access he has into the systems. But I basically say that insider is not only the one who is disgruntled,
Yes.
but he is also the one who doesn't know anything,
Obviously.
or he
Or
is,
might be used de facto.
yes, or he might be some kind of doing some type of negligence because of his ignorance.
Okay, definitely.
So because he also contribute to the attack.
Obviously,
A very
In
very
one way or-
yes,
in one way or another,
in
but,
one way or the
yes.
other. Because a very simple example was already discussing about a phishing attack. A phishing email received on an employee system. He downloads it. He spreads the malware. He unknowingly doing this. He is not like, but he is an insider, of course. That is why he had access to the system. He was that is why he was able to spread that malware. But there are basically mechanisms for controlling such things.
That's great.
for
That's
such
great.
things.
If these are existing, that's great. So,
I want to say that there are we do not require any very sophisticated methods for that, or any sophisticated.
but the systems
yes,
is already
only
in place.
procedures. If we adopt only procedures, only access control, only the things that need to know. Basically,
There is no need of heightened surveillance or some sort of identification system. So,
even if that is required, there are some type of solutions where we use behavioral type of analysis of employees, and using AI as well. They basically monitors the behavior of employees, and whenever there is an anomaly, they create some type of alarms. So there are such
ma'am,
type
thrown
of
the ball in
solutions.
your court, sir. AI. So, Dr. Yasar, Pakistan still lacks a comprehensive personal data protection law. Personal Data Protection Bill 2023 was introduced, but unfortunately it's yet to be promulgated into law. How much it's important to have such kind of law, its enforcement and punishment, the individuals or the citizens' data and the digital intellectual property rights particularly are vital to protect, and whether the national data protection would also be covered into that law?
I think yes, it would be covered, and first of all, it is a very important initiative, and Ministry of IT deserves some appreciation that they finally, started legislating on this. Like the sooner the better, they have to make it into a law as well. So the thing is that, as I said before in this discussion, that in Pakistan, like we have no standards for who can collect what sort of data, right? So like when you go for major purchases or something, it makes sense that you give more data or something. But like any organization that is collecting the data first has to demonstrate what measures they have in place to protect the data. So let me, for example, anybody who is collecting a picture of a CNIC, right? It has a lot of information that would otherwise merit a cyber attack to get.
Obviously.
So, do they have a mechanism to save that CNIC? In what file is this? How many employees have access to it? On the average, what percentage of employees of that company, or let's say the land transfer organization, something, have access to that, right? So digitization, since it has on a surge recently, and apparently very much so after the COVID-19, and in Pakistan also, like a lot of things are getting digital, particularly the financial services. So because the attacks, the system intrusion kind of attacks have almost doubled in the past couple of years.
Yes.
From 14% to 30% now, right? So this is why we need to put extra measures in place, and for this the personal data protection law is also what I would really ideally think of is that we should not have to carry any physical things around, giving your CNIC or something everywhere. Anybody can demand the original CNIC to keep at a desk somewhere, and you go inside and you can have the CNIC back. Such practices have to be curbed, and we have to have reliable services from organizations like NADRA, where, for example, you scan a digital ID, they just confirm that this is the same person.
But unfortunately, the problem is that there are lots of unauthorized data sale is going on even at the social media platforms, and FIA endorsed it that citizen CNICs, family trees, mobile numbers, bank account details, taxation records, and lots of things are there. And in this era particularly, data is actually the money.
Yes.
So people are using data to earn lots of financial resources. So this is unfortunately going on, but we have a very fruitful discussion. I want to continue it, but unfortunately we have run short of time. So thank you very much, Dr. Yasar, for your presence here in the here in studios. Thank you very much, Dr. Mehreen, for your presence here, and thank you very much, Dr. Ayub Shah Sahab, for your presence online. I'm really thankful to you, and thank you very much. You elaborated well on different aspects. Viewers, as you have just listened to our panelists, cyber security mechanisms actually provide a holistic environment to protect database information and the critical infrastructures. So 95% of the cyber attacks are happening from different sort of human errors actually. So artificial intelligence is also a source of cyber attack, but it also can be a source to protect actually the cyber data, information and all other infrastructures. Our digital or cybercrime laws are inadequate. They need to cover all neglected areas as well. So it is important that the personal data protection bill, which must have to be enacted soon, so that there should be, the individual data must have to be protected. Digital and cyber audit of the software houses is also very important to protect them and to give them incentives regarding the cyber security. Cyber security is ever evolving phenomena, and so that the vulnerability to attacks as well. So we have to keep on strengthening cyber security mechanisms in place at the national level, and we should have to have a lot of faith into our organizations that they are going to do that. Strengthen our digital and cyber law enforcement mechanisms, that is very important. Also enhance international cooperation, that is inevitable, and give awareness to the common masses about the threats and the security features so that they can prepare themselves individually to protect their data as well. Ethical guidelines are vital to disseminate to students and professionals, particularly that how to act when you are in a cyber atmosphere, cyber environment. So thank you very much. This is all today's Foresight. It's time to sign off. Allah Hafiz.